this is Emo from Emo Gaming, and welcome back to my channel. I am sorry everyone that I have not uploaded in 2.5 weeks. There are a few reasons for it, and there's some bright sides on the horizon. The two reasons that I haven't uploaded, the two big ones, is first, as you can see in the footage in the background, and what the topic of this actual video is going to be, I've been playing a lot of Destiny 2. Two, a colleague at work got suspended for 2 weeks being the only any-timer. I had to cover his shift, so I've been dead tired getting home from work. I didn't have the energy to record, and I feel like just recording me dead tired isn't what you guys want to listen to. And so if it's not going to be good for you guys, I'm not going to record it. Like, I'm not going to send out half-assed content. I am trying to make the best videos I can. Yes, I have a lot to learn in regards to the editing front, but I try to make this as best as possible. Now, that bright side on the horizon that I have is two things. One, I've been making enough money recently that I've actually made it so I'm no longer in any time. I'm restricted in hours, was definitely 3 days off a week, but some hours on per week that I know I won't have to work, which means I can adjust my schedule to do more recordings. So that with more recordings, more editing time means more videos for you guys. Two, I do still have one play session of about an hour and a half in Shadow of War from before all this. Like I said, I've just been so sapped for energy, I haven't been able to edit it and get it out to you guys. So tomorrow, once after this video goes up, whenever it goes up, I'll make sure that Shadow of War is being put back up on my channel at the very least. And the third good news is that I'm currently researching a Destiny 2 lore video on Osiris. I want to make my first lore video due to the fact that Curse of Osiris DLC is coming out December 5th. I want to get a lore video on Osiris and a lore video out on the Vex. Now then, let's turn our efforts to this video, the focus of it, to what this video is actually about. I've talked about this in my update videos and all that, but I'm planning on making a review series called Yay or Nay. Basically, the title comes from it was whether or not I would recommend a game to people, or whether or not I would not recommend it. Yes or no. Yay or nay. So now then, let's move on to Destiny 2. This is going to be my first review on my channel. Well, if you don't count No Man's Sky, I took that video down. But yeah, if you don't count that, which I took down, yeah, my first review. Anyway, now this review is going to bring up some points of my Destiny 2 experience. You know, your gameplay, the gunplay, slightly different because this is a shooter game. Bugs, issues, narrative, you know, stuff like that. It's going to be a little out of order though. And I'm going to actually start off with the gameplay rather than the narrative first. Normally I'd start with the narrative of this thing first, but I'm going to start with the gameplay first because there's a big elephant in the room when it comes to the gameplay, and that is the lack of endgame. I kind of want to get this negative out first. Now, to start with, so you can understand what Destiny 2 is, there's essentially 3 grinds to the game. And the first grind is very short. It's really, the game doesn't really start until you get that first grind out of the way. And that first grind is getting to level 20, the current base level cap. But first I should talk about the levels so you can understand the grinds. There are 2 types of levels. Your base level, which currently is max of 20, which you raise by playing the campaign. Once you complete the campaign, or maybe before if you're doing like other side activities, you'll reach level 20. Now, the other level is your power level, which is your average total level of all your gear. For example, if you have a bunch of gear that's ranges from like 130 to 160 power, your power level might come to be about 145, 150-ish, depending on like how much gear you got. And that's the idea of the power level. In Destiny 1, this is referred to as light level, so you'll find that some YouTubers refer to this as light level, and even I've called it that because I just like the term light level, and it's lore-wise, it makes more sense. But anyway, the first grind is basically completing the campaign and getting to the max level of 20. The second grind is going from the campaign, which your power level should be around 180 to 200, and this is where you go from that level to the soft cap of 265 power. At 265, vendors stop dropping loot better than what you have, and so you have to do milestones, which reset every week to get powerful gear, which can go above that, which leads to your third part of the grind, and that's doing those weekly milestones to get to the power level cap of 305. Odd number, I'll explain why it's got that 5 extra, not just 300 flat. But anyway, in essence, that 3-stage grind is the game in vanilla Destiny 2. But don't count the chickens before they hatch. Let me go over all the activities that are inside the game that you can actually perform to get the gear you need, whether it's just pure leveling, and all that, or if it's like the actual milestones themselves. You got your public events, which you can make into heroic public events, which drop better loot. You have your weekly flashpoint, which is basically one of the powerful gear milestones in which you have to do public events on a certain planet. With that, you also have your Cade Stash chests, which are chests that you can only get once per account per week, that take place on the milestone, on the Flashpoint world that Cade 6 sends you to, and you can get some loot from them. You got Lost Sectors, which are basically like a mini dungeon. You go in, defeat a boss, loot a chest. You have the Strikes, which are like their actual dungeons in the game. You got your Nightfalls, which are one weekly dungeon that adds a timer and a couple of modifiers to it to make it more challenging content. And the Nightfall also has a prestige mode to it, which is even more difficult. Then you have the Leviathan Raid, which also has a normal and prestige mode, but it also has a challenge or mode, which also gives you even more loot, which is even more difficult than the prestige mode. And then on the PvP side of things, you've got the Crucible, which is your standard PvP. You have Trials of the Nine, which is a PvP that takes place pretty much every weekend. And then when it's available, which it hasn't become available yet for PC, which is what I play on, is the Iron Banner, which PvP also has all their game modes are 4v4, and just some examples of these game modes are Control, which is basically your King of the Hill game mode, your Supremacy, which is your Kill Confirm game mode, and Clash, which is just Team Deathmatch. But these are just some of the examples. Anyway, with all that listed, if you're efficient with your grinding, you can get to the level cap of 305 pretty quickly. In which case, the only thing you can grind for are cosmetics. And if you're the collector type of person, you got your unique weapons and armors in the game. So let's say you want to collect all the Trials of the Nine armor, or the Iron Banner armor, or the Faction Rally armor, or weapons. You know, you get the idea. You can either go for your shaders, which are basically what you color your armor with, or you can go for your unique collectibles, like the weapons and armor that like look cool. That's it. That's all you got to go for. And it's because of this that you have a lack of endgame. I can't deny that fact. But to make this even worse, the prestige modes of both the Nightfall and the Raid, which both require a power level of 300 to even do not give you anything worth the effort. All they do is really give you some, well, I'm not sure about the Nightfall itself, the Prestige Nightfall, but the Prestige Raid, all it gives you is the first time you do it. If you're doing the exotic quest, it gives you an ornament for an exotic shotgun, and otherwise you get fancy looking armor. That's no different than the normal Raid armor, just it glows. Got a little bit more gold on it. That's it. So once you reach the 305, everything you do is purely for cosmetic reasons, really. Cosmetic and collectible reasons. So how do they keep the game fresh? Live events. I've already touched on them, but you got your Iron Banner. You have your faction rally. And yeah, for Season 1, that's all we've gotten, is those two things. Unfortunately, Iron Banner hasn't even come out for the PC yet, so it's literally just been Faction Rally. Of course, the game's only been out for 2.5 weeks, so no biggie. But hey, you get the idea. But yeah, like once you play these events, there's really nothing going for the game. Yes, the season's reset, which gives you something to grind for next season, which probably the next season reset for Season 2 is going to be when, probably when Curse of Osiris launches on the 5th, which luckily isn't that far off for PC, so PC probably won't suffer like consoles did. I almost think that PCs launched the right time, whereas everything else kind of launched a little too early. But hey, this is the gameplay aspect of my review. So now I'm going to move on to what I'd normally put first, and that's the narrative. Now, I can sum up with the campaign with one word. Heck, I can sum up the campaign with one sound. Meh. That's it. It's meh. It's kind of cliche, to be honest. At least it's easy to follow. Like, you got a clear enemy. They have clear ambitions. But it's cliche. By the books. No risks taken. Your character doesn't even talk. It's done all by your Nolan North ghost. I understand why from the game developer aspect. Its voice actors are expensive. And then having 3 races with 2 sexes each means 6 voice actors per language. So with all the different languages, that those 6 voice actors multiply a lot. So yeah, I understand why they did that. But anyway, that's another thing entirely. So the story was meh, boring, cliche, still easy to follow, a lot more streamlined. So from what I understand, a lot better than the original Destiny. Now, let's touch upon the lore, the aspect of the narrative I'm more interested in. I'm planning on making a lore video. Well, our videos, plural, but you get the idea. The lore of Destiny is, what I've always said, is great. But it isn't found in the game in a traditional standard, such as a dedicated lore section where you go in and you got all these little pieces of lore information of all the lore you found previously, and you can go read over them at your own leisure. Instead, they give you lore tabs on your exotic weapons as well as your raid and trials gear. Not even things like Iron Banner or Faction Rally. They don't give you lore tabs with those. At least not in Season 1. And the other form of lore, other than these lore tabs, are the in-game scannables. However, unlike the lore tabs, which if you keep the gear in your vault or whatever, you can go back and look over them at any time. Scannables, no. If you want to redo the scannable, you have to go to the actual physical location of the scannable. There's no way to play them back once you find them. No way even to track which scannables you found and which ones you haven't. And then there's the fact that the first game's lore, aka the Grimoire cards, which was found on Bungie.net, that was all taken down from Bungie.net. And so now, in order to get the first game's lore, you have to go to third-party sites such as the Ishtar Collective to gain access to them. And the game Destiny, that would be fine actually if it put it all in Destiny 2. But Destiny 2 is a long ways off from going over all the lore again of the original game and putting it inside the story. Like, until we get a whole bunch of Hive stuff with the Book of Sorrows built into it, like in lore tabs or whatever, I'm not going to be content. And the Books of Sorrows is big. Like, you know how many exotics or legendary gear of special purpose you would need to cover that? And how many spaces that would take in your vault to keep on, like, hold on to all that so you could go over the lore? Man, oh man. So once again, I'm gonna have to give this kind of a negative doc. Like, I love the lore overall, and I love the game, but yeah, it's just not executed correctly. Now, let's start moving into some more positive things here in the review. Gunplay. Gunplay is solid. It's Bungie. What do you expect? It's what they do. Now, they have a variety of weapon types, such as scout rifles, auto rifles, pulse rifles, hand cannons, sidearms, submachine guns, fusion rifles, shotguns, snipers, rocket launchers, grenade launchers, swords. That last one's kind of an outlier. But anyway, you have all these different weapon types, and all these weapon types have archetypes. You have aggressive archetypes, which do more damage but have higher recoil. You have lightweight archetypes, which are easy to handle, and they actually give you a speed boost while you have them equipped. You have adaptive, which is kind of all around. You have precision, which doesn't really have much recoil to say much of anything. Then you also have perks. Your perks, you've got some really great perks with high caliber rounds, Dragonfly, Outlaw, just to name a few. A lot more than that. Then you have your special exotic weapons, which come with their own exotic perks. I touched these up with the lore tabs, but exotics basically are weapons that have something to do with the lore of Destiny. They have a tale to tell, and they're not just weapons or armor too. But examples with that just was something I can think of that would tell really decent like exotic perk. It's really cool. Sunshot. It's a hand cannon. You shoot it, it explodes. There's explosive rounds, so that in and of itself isn't special. But what makes Sunshot so unique is that enemies that are killed by Sunshot also explode, and this can cause a daisy chain-like effect where if one enemy explodes and it kills another enemy in that explosion, that enemy also technically was killed by Sunshot, and so he'll then explode. Then you also have the mod system, which I touched on back during gameplay with power levels. But mods are basically, they not only have unique abilities, mostly to the armors, weapons are kind of bland, but they also, if you get legendary mods, add +5 to your power level on your gear. So this is why instead of rounding to 300, gear, the max power level is actually 305, because if you get all maxed 300 gear and then you get them all with legendary mods, it'll bring your power level to 305. But anyway, it's a very solid gunplay. I've got some really favorite weapons. I really love some, but Uh, honestly, going back on exotics, I feel that they don't actually feel exotic, which is kind of what they're named for. You get them so often, and many of them are kind of bland. I can only think of 4 or 5 that actually have a kind of cool aspect to them, and like only like 2 or 3 of those cool ones actually serve a purpose. Like one of them that's really cool, Graviton Lance. The thing, you shoot it, you get 3 shots on a target, it does a lot of damage, and there's a chance of it spawning a black hole. Literally spawning a black hole. But the thing sucks. Probably one of the worst guns in the game. It's supposed to be an exotic, but it sucks that bad. Yeah. So gunplay is solid, but there are issues when it comes to the exotics. Now, next up, the sound. The sound of the game is beautiful. Whether it's the sound effects, the music, the voice actors, they are spot on. I'm not even gonna bother giving you guys a detailed explanation. Just have a quick listen of this clip.
Alert! I'm detecting abnormal Vex activity in a local quadrant.
These Vex, they're building something.
Calculating probabilities. Yes, they are.
Finally, I'd like to address an issue which has been popping up with games in the later half of 2017. It's not going to go away. The industry is moving towards this way. Microtransactions. It pretty much has to be its own category in game reviews from now on. How intrusive are the microtransactions in a game if they're present? Which a lot of multiplayer games from now on are going to have them. Luckily, Destiny 2 isn't that bad. Its microtransactions are purely cosmetic, and you don't even have to get them to get those items. You can get what you call bright engrams, which are basically things that you get when you level up, quote unquote, past your base level of 20. And you get a bright engram every time, and you take it to the person you normally do for microtransactions, and it's basically like a loot box, and you can open it up, and you level up a lot, especially if you pop a fire team medallion and you do public events, which is the best way to get exotics. When you do that, yeah, you level up quite quickly. So bright engrams, I've never really felt like oh, I want a bright engram for a chance, and I didn't already have one, you know? And I've gotten some really good stuff from bright engrams too. People are gonna hate me, but I got the ramen emote. Didn't pay for it or nothing, just got it. I think it was actually like my 4th, my 4th bright engram. But anyway, I will make a separate video talking about my opinion on microtransactions. I actually was going to include it in this review, but this review is already long enough as it is. It's approaching the 25-minute mark, and like other than that little bit of like 2-3 minutes at the beginning where I talked about why I haven't uploaded, this has been all about Destiny 2. If I were to talk about my opinions on microtransactions, this could easily go on for 40 minutes, and I don't want to make a review that long for you guys. But anyway, let's get on to the wrap-up of this. How would I score Destiny 2? Now, would I recommend this to someone else? Yay or nay, going back to the title of the series. The answer is yay heavily. I've sunk in a lot of hours into this game. Yes, there's no dedicated lore tab, and as a lore freak, that's kind of upsetting. Yes, the story itself was kind of bland. Yes, exotics could need work. And yes, there's a lack of endgame for the hardcore players. All of which are major issues. But the game is fun. And yeah, there's really not much you can really complain about, really. By the time I've never felt as a PC player, I've never felt like, oh, I'm out of things to do. I always have something I can work towards. And by the time I would start to run out of things to do, Curse of Osiris comes out. I can sympathize with the console players. Completely understandable why they would feel that. But they had to go an extra month and a half or so without any content to do, longer than PC. So it's kind of, yeah, I can get where they're coming from. But yeah, so even with all that, I would recommend this game as a solid EA any day of the week, regardless of those faults. But what you guys want to know is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would I give Destiny 2? Now, I'm just going to say this, although I am going to rate my games in my series like this, just so you can get a solid idea of how I like them. Understand this, I actually don't really agree with the rating them with numbers, because it really all depends on your feelings, and you have to look at a game objectively if you're reviewing it. And honestly, I'm rating this lower than how much my enjoyment level is. My enjoyment level, if I was just gonna rate that of Destiny 2 so far, has been a solid 9.5 out of 10. Not perfect, but it's great. However, for a solid review, for an actual review score, as someone looking at this from the outside looking in, with my emotions detached, I have to give Destiny 2 an 8.5 out of 10. Half a point to a full point lower than my enjoyment factor. And this is why I don't actually like this kind of measuring system. It isn't accurate. So the way I'm going to do it for my review series from now on is I'm going to talk about the game. I'll tell you whether or not I would recommend the game, yay or nay, and then I'll give you a physical score after the fact, like this. So to wrap up, once again, I would give this game a yay. I would recommend it to anybody that likes this kind of game any day of the week. However, as a solid score that you can actually understand and comprehend, I would give it an 8.5 out of 10. Now, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching this video. This has gone on a little bit longer than my script intended, though not surprising. I tend to just write a script, and then if I feel like I forgot something, I expand on it. And this is approaching the 30-minute mark, so yeah. I'll be back to my usual schedule of my videos tomorrow. I'll make sure that Shadow of War is back out there, and I'll make sure to play Shadow of War, continue to play that, and I will eventually make sure that whatchamacallit, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh yeah, I'll make sure that my lore video is out, hopefully by the end of the week. But yeah, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. It's greatly appreciated. And this has been Yumo from Mule Gaming, and this has been my review on Destiny 2. Later. Thank you all for watching the video. This is Yumo from Mule Gaming, and if you wish for future content, please like, subscribe, comment, show your support. It's really appreciated. And I hope to see you guys next time. Later.